Okay, and the woman was clothed in purple and scarlet, and adorned with gold and precious stones and pearls, having in her hand a gold cup full of abominations and of the unclean things of her immorality. And upon her forehead a name was written, a mystery, Babylon the Great, the mother of harlots and of the abominations of the earth. And I saw the woman drunk with the blood of the saints and with the blood of the witnesses of Jesus. And when I saw her, I wondered greatly. Okay, so Babylon, then we can trace it all the way back to right after the flood, when Nimrod and his wife Semiramis set up their false religion, which was in competition, so to say, with the true religion, and they departed from the true knowledge of God. And Noah had 3 sons, Shem, Japheth, Ham. Shem and Japheth were righteous, but Ham was wicked, and his descendants, his son was Cush, and Cush was the father of Nimrod, and they were the ones who were mainly responsible for the building of Babel and the Tower of Babel, when God used the languages and spread them out over the face of the earth. But Nimrod and his wife either returned to Babylon and finished constructing the tower and set up their false religion. And that false religion then spread across the world. It got further and further away from the true knowledge of God. And of course, the unfaithfulness is symbolized by the sin of a prostitute, immorality, because of their unfaithfulness to God. So it's pictured as a woman who is gone into prostitution and immorality, a harlot, a whore. Because that's God's estimation of the false religion. And it just got worse and worse. And Paul is describing this departure from the faith in the book of Romans, chapter 1. Just refer to that for a minute. Romans chapter 1, verse 18 says, "For the wrath of God is revealed from heaven against all ungodliness and unrighteousness of men who suppress the truth in unrighteousness. Because that which is known about God is evident within them, for God made it evident to them. For since the creation of the world, his invisible attributes, his eternal power and divine nature have been clearly seen, being understood through what has been made, so that they are without excuse." Okay, so when Noah and his family came off the ark, they had knowledge of the true God. And it goes on in verse 21, it says, "For even though they knew God, they did not honor him as God or give thanks, but they became futile in their speculations, and their foolish heart was darkened." Okay, so within a generation or two, they got away from God, and they didn't honor God, and so their speculations about God became, they went astray. Verse 22 says, "Professing to be wise, they became fools, and exchanged the glory of the incorruptible God for an image." Okay, so this is where they set up the idol worship. The image in the form of corruptible man and of birds and four-footed animals and crawling creatures. Okay, so once they got away from the true knowledge of God, they started worshiping man himself, and then birds and animals and different creatures. And as people got further and further away from the knowledge of God, they started worshiping everything imaginable. They worshiped mountains and rivers and trees. Just about every animal that exists has been worshipped, whether mammals or bugs. Just about everything's been worshipped. The sun and the moon and the stars, fire, anything you want to name has been worshipped. It shows how foolish man has become. And so man became fools when they departed from the true knowledge of God. Verse 24, it says, "Therefore God gave them over to the lusts of their hearts to impurity, that their bodies might be dishonored among them." Okay, so as they got further away from God, their minds became corrupt and decadent, and they left the purity of God, and the gods they were worshiping were corrupt. So they themselves became corrupt. Verse 25, "So they exchanged the truth of God for a lie, and worshipped and served the creature rather than the Creator, who is blessed forever. Amen." And so they introduced all kinds of false doctrines, and they came in with a reincarnation. They were worshiping their ancestors, and all kinds of things. Like in the case of Semiramis, the wife of Nimrod, when Nimrod was rising to power, he had killed an awful lot of people, and so Seth somehow was able to arrest Nimrod and put him to death for murder. Semiramis then proclaimed that Nimrod had become a god, had everybody worshiping him, and so she introduced the idea that people became gods. This was carried forward. Eventually, it came to a point where even kings were pronounced to be gods even before they died. And this is commonly practiced in Egypt, also in Rome, and many other places, where people were actually proclaimed to be gods and people worshipped them. And so then Semiramis herself, because she was very lustful, sexually promiscuous, she became pregnant. She explained her pregnancy by saying that she had been in contact with her deceased husband, who was already a god, and so that's how she became pregnant, and so that her child would be the son of God. So when her child was born, she named him Tammuz, and then so she stated he is the son of God because the result of her contact with Nimrod. So he was the son of Nimrod, and so he was the son of God. And then she said that Nimrod was that Tammuz was the reincarnation of Nimrod. So that made Tammuz both her husband and her son. So you see the confusion and everything that was brought in, and so they had people then began worshiping Tammuz, and this false religion spread. In the Bible, they talk about Baal. Well, Baal is just another name for Tammuz, who was son of God and the reincarnation of God, and so forth. And so we can see how Satan has introduced all these counterfeit ideas into the false gods, into the false religion, and God considers all this unfaithfulness to himself as tantamount to immorality and prostitution. So that's why he's treating this false religion as harm, because it's unfaithfulness to the true religion. And then the decadence continues, verse 26 in Romans 1, it says, "For this reason God gave them over to degrading passions, for their women exchanged the natural function for that which is unnatural." Talking about their sexual side. "And in the same way also the men abandoned the natural function of the woman and burned in their desire toward one another, men with men committing indecent acts and receiving in their own persons the due penalty of their error." So homosexuality, lesbianism entered in, and this had a great effect on their minds. This became decadent. And verse 28, "And just as they did not see fit to acknowledge God any longer, God gave them over to a depraved mind to do those things which are not proper, being filled with all unrighteousness, wickedness, greed, evil, full of envy, murder, strife, deceit, malice. They are gossips, slanderers, haters of God, insolent, boastful, inventors of evil, disobedient to parents, without understanding, untrustworthy, unloving, unmerciful. And although they know the ordinance of God, that those who practice such things are worthy of death, they not only do the same, but also give hearty approval to those who practice them." Okay, so we can trace the decline of the human race through the false religion, and they introduced the idea of the goddesses of fertility, goddesses. They had insatiable lust, and the way that these goddesses were worshipped was that they had the temple prostitutes, and men would have sex with the temple prostitutes and the priestesses, and these priestesses were representatives of the goddess, and by doing that, then the goddess was sexually satisfied, and as a reward she would grant fertility to man's flocks and his herds and his fields and his wife, and to a king he would the goddess would give her the king's armies victories over their enemies and so forth. So you had to continually keep these goddesses sexually satisfied through the temple prostitutes that would sex with them. And the goddesses were also the goddess of war. So they were a combination of fertility and war. The goddesses went by many different names. In Babylon there was Ishtar and Sybil. Israel, or the country of Israel. Canaan was Ashtoreth. In Rome it was Venus. In Greece it was Diane. She was a huntress, she was pictured many times with a bow and with her hunting dogs. That was the warrior side of her, but she was also the goddess of fertility and so forth. So it's through this pagan religion that the world got so far away from God and got so decadent, as all the sins were listed there in Romans. And so that's why God is taking out such judgment against false religions. And during the tribulation period, all these false religions are brought together in the great one world church, where all the false religions in the world have come together in an ecumenical movement, and they all agree that they were all worshiping the same God, except in different ways and under different names and so forth. And of course, these were false gods. And as a result, their minds were depraved, and this is like being drunk. Like a person who is under the influence of alcohol, he doesn't have mental faculties in control and so forth, or he's like a drunk. So people who go into the false religions and worship these gods, they religiously they are like in a drunken stupor. Okay, so that's what he's talking about. Go back to Revelation now, chapter 17 and verse 6. It says, "And I saw the woman drunk with the blood of the saints and with the blood of the witnesses of Jesus. And when I saw her, I wondered greatly." Okay, so these false religions, of course, they all turn against the true religion. They turn against God, and of course they persecute the true believers, the true worshipers of God, and they put them to death. They shed their blood. And so they are drunk with the blood of the saints and with the blood of the witnesses of Jesus. Okay, so John, when he sees her, she's all decked out so beautifully in her. She was clothed with, back of verse 4, says the woman was clothed in purple and scarlet and adorned with gold and precious stones and pearls. Well, this must have been quite an impressive sight. But that's the way the false religion appears so great that in reality it's totally corrupt. She has in her hand a gold cup full of abominations and the unclean things of her immorality. And upon her forehead a name was written, a mystery, Babylon the Great, the mother of harlots. That means the source of harlots. Starting with Semiramis. The mother of harlots and of the abominations of the earth. Okay, and so I saw the woman drunk with the blood of the saints and with the blood of the witnesses of Jesus. And when I saw her, I wondered greatly. And the angel said to me, "Why do you wonder? I shall tell you the mystery of the woman and of the beast that carries her, which has the 7 heads and the 10 horns." Okay, so this is the same beast we've seen before. Of course, this represents the kingdom of the Antichrist. Now, this is a scarlet beast. Now, scarlet is the color of sin. Jesus, in Isaiah it says, "Come now, let us reason together, saith the Lord. Though your sins be as crimson, they shall be white as snow. Though they be red like scarlet, they shall be as wool." Okay, so red, scarlet is the color of sin. So it says the scarlet beast is the sinful beast. Now notice the relationship between the woman and the beast. The beast is carrying the woman. The woman is riding on the beast. Now the woman represents Babylon, religious Babylon, false religion of Babylon. The beast, which is the Antichrist kingdom, or Satan's kingdom, represents Babylon political. So we have the religious and political Babylon. Okay, now the woman is riding on the beast, which indicates that the woman is exercising control over the beast, apparently. And the beast is carrying the woman. And So that's the way it will be in the early part of the tribulation period. The Antichrist will use the ecumenical religion, the one world religion, for his purposes. As he's rising to power, the people will be unified under one religion, and that will help him in his control over the people. He won't have to worry about differences of religion. In other words, the people won't be divided in that way. Although politically he still will have to conquer those who may not want to be under him. But this takes a lot of the problems away. And so until he has achieved a degree of power, he will use the religion for his own purpose. But eventually he is going to declare that he himself is God. So when he does that, he will have absolutely no more use for the religion, the one world religion, because he will be replacing that with his own religion. So he's just putting up with that, with the religion for a while, just so long as it serves his purpose. Okay, so the angel now is going to show John the truth about the woman and that is riding on this scarlet beast. And so we'll pick up from here on verse 7. We'll pick up from here next time and discuss the mystery of the woman and of the beast that carries her. Okay? So we'll start from here next time.